Should we spend just a couple minutes on the playoff series that are going to
Yeah,
start?
we have to
Speaking
talk
of the
about
Knicks,
actual basketball. You're
yeah.
telling me? Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's do. So Knicks Pacers starts on Monday.
yes.
What is your? I guess maybe this is the best way for us to like. What is your biggest just question or thing that you're watching, sort of leading into this series?
I want to set an over/under on the number of rebounds that Miles Turner gets in this series, and I guess it depends on how many games it goes. So maybe we should do rebounds per game instead. But what, like 4.5? Is that a fair over/under? I mean, that's the big concern, I think, for the Pacers. They were not a great rebounding team during the regular season, 28th in the league in terms of total rebounds per game. And as we saw it last year with the Knicks against the Cavs in the first round. We saw it this year against the Sixers, and the Sixers have a freaking 7-2 Joel Embiid, even though he was on one knee. They are just such a physical rebounding team. Honestly, I think the thing that I'd be concerned about as a Pacers fan is that the series against the Giannis-less Bucks and like hobbled Dameless Bucks. I don't want to take anything away from them. You play who is in front of you. It's awesome for the Pacers to have taken care of business. I think it took a little longer than it should have, but good on them from advancing. The Knicks just emerged from an all-out war in the first round. Like those series are just very different tonally. And I think the
Mhm.
Knicks are just more ready for this type of grueling physical matchup that they're going to try to drag this down to. Honestly, I think it's going to be such an interesting contrast of styles because the Pacers are just going to get out and run as much as they possibly can.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Knicks are going to let them do so because they're such a good rebounding team. So it's who wins the battle of styles might be the biggest question of this series.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing I'm looking for too, because the Pacers, even as I'm using post Siakam trade, they were
Okay.
second in average possession time. So the second fastest team. Only Washington was faster. The Knicks were 30th. So dead last in average possession time. And so you're looking at a team that will more likely than not slow things down. We've seen the Knicks, they'll get out and run on some of the live ball stuff, but that's very much like Josh Hart dependent, it sort of feels
Yeah.
like. And then if you're the Knicks, though, can you keep the Pacers? They've been like, especially after live rebounds, the Knicks have been pretty good at preventing teams from getting out in transition. Can you do that against a Pacers team that's going to look to run? But part of the Pacers being able to do that is, can they get the defensive board to get out and run? Because the Knicks
Right.
are so good on the offensive glass. And do you sell out any part of your transition offense to try and put extra bodies to keep the Knicks like from getting those? Because I guess the thing with the Pacers, they'll run anyway, even on like the dead, like after a score of
Yeah.
the other team, they'll get out and run anyway. But like if you're going to give the Knicks an opportunity to get their defense set, it's just going to be harder for you to do that. And so this team, more so than that Bucks team, like you're going to have a harder time ending possessions. The other thing I'm kind of looking at is, I mean, I'm always just looking at what is Jalen Brunson going to be able to do. Is just the sole
Mm-hmm.
focal point. Like how aggressively will the Pacers defend him? I assume we saw a lot of it in the regular season. Like Andrew Nemhard on Jalen Brunson will be maybe we'll see some Neesmith on him a little bit, maybe McConnell at points. But I assume Nemhard will get the primary assignment. But how else are you going about that? Is there anyone? I know there are players that like how much will the Knicks sell out to try and go after Tyrese Halliburton, like to hunt him in the half
Mm-hmm.
court? And then how much is Indy in turn going to sell out to prevent that from not happening, but well, we're going to send two to the ball right away or something and make these other guys beat us. And then finally, just because we've never seen it, at least they didn't play each other because OG got injured, I don't think, right? But like OG versus Siakam, I'm just assuming that those
Mm-hmm.
are just, that's how they're going to match up, like on both ends of the floors against each other. That's just going to be really fun to see. And I'm curious, who do you give the edge to in just NBA defenses, even offenses are so complicated. It's never just going to be OG versus Pascal, but who do you
Right.
give the advantage to in that primary matchup?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you would think on the surface, Pascal, he's a more well-rounded player, but
Definitely more dynamic. Yeah.
we just saw OG hold his own against Joel Embiid, and I mean, not just straight one-on-one. He had a lot of help, but he has a lot more size than like Siakam is big and physical, but he's not as big and physical as Joel Embiid. So I think OG is going to be able to at least hold his own in that matchup defensively, and to your point, those guys, Lord knows, they probably went against each other in practice for a number of
Right.
years in Toronto. So this might just be like Nick Nurse might just be having flashbacks watching this series, just thinking back to all of his Toronto days. But yeah, I mean, to your point on Brunson, I don't know. Like the Sixers tried a lot of different stuff on him, and they had a lot of different wings they could throw at him. Tobias got switched on to him a lot. They had Kelly Oubre, Nick Batum. Melton didn't play a ton in that series, but he would have been another option. They doubled him. Brunson, I mean, it took him 2 games to kind of figure it out, but after that, it was just game on. I mean, they could do nothing to stop him. He has, I don't know how you stop the little hesitation, like him driving to the basket and then just stopping. Like if he beats you off the dribble, he's going to draw a foul on you because he knows how to manipulate his body and his driving such that he will stop and you are going to keep running and you're going to come flying over his back. So if you can, I guess that's a key. If Indiana can stay out of foul trouble or just stay out of foul trouble with regard to Jalen Brunson, don't fall for, I don't want to call it like grifting or foul baiting, because like, especially for someone who covers the Sixers, like I recognize the irony in Sixers people complaining about Jalen Brunson's whistle. Joel Embiid and Kyle Lowry are the kings of this. So, like kudos to him, but that is something that the Pacers are going to have to be very much aware of in this series, that he is going to be trying to draw that kind of contact, and he's very good at drawing that type of contact. And also, I mean, if you have Miles Turner playing in drop, like Brunson has that mid-range game that, I mean, every superstar needs, but the floater especially really seemed like he got more and more comfortable with that throughout the Sixers series as well. So I just don't know if Indiana has as many options to throw at him defensively as the Sixers did. And even that wasn't enough to stop him after games 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's just it's such a contrast in styles to where you look at it and I'm wondering, and the Knicks did get up more threes post trade deadline, but they're 17th in 3-point attempt rate out of the 20 teams that made the play-in since the end of the regular season. And so you look at how many threes Indy made just during that, and that's with Tyrese Halliburton shooting very poorly from 3, sub 30% again, which is another thing to track, by the way. It's like Halliburton not seeming to get as deep when he's like attacking, and then also just he's putting up the threes. It feels like, not that it does feel like he's settling actually, but they're not going in at as high a clip. So you look at it and so both of these things last 6 games, the Pacers end up making in their series 84 threes. The Knicks made 71 against the Sixers, but because the Knicks are on the offensive glass and they're a team that can get to the foul line, whereas the Pacers, that's not really something that they rely on. Which gives more? Like, what's going to be the bigger offset? Or are we going to have to see one team? And I would argue that if there's going to be a team that has to sort of change their style, it might be the Knicks more than the Pacers, just because the way the Pacers play feels like it's easier to dictate terms with. Now, the Knicks in the offensive glass, that's something that they could absolutely, but in terms of their shot selection, maybe, are they going to have to, get up some more threes in this series? And that's where it's, when you kind of look at it, is this a Dante DiVincenzo or Josh Hart? Or not, it's not even, Josh Hart is never going to come out of the game, but It's like, how much run is Dante DiVincenzo getting? And does it need to be more, because he's someone that you can station out ultra deep and he'll get them up. Josh Hart did a good job of taking the threes, but I'm assuming that's the guy Indy's still going to continue to, I would guess, help or send help from, is Josh Hart when he's on the floor. And then I think, and this is I'm interested to see, like, just because it's been so long, the Knicks were basically playing 6 guys by the end of the Sixers series, because like Deuce McBride, what did he play, 11 minutes in game 6? And he's had some really good moments. Do we see any burnout whatsoever? You can tell me the Knicks are conditioned for this. It's fine. I'm just curious. It's so many minutes. We're in May. Like, these dudes have played so many games. Is there any sort of burnout there? And I don't expect Tibbs to expand his rotation. Like, he's just going to play 7. It's going to be 7 guys. But Donovich is injured. And by the way, that's another kind of interesting subplot. I know he wasn't playing a lot, but he added floor spacing and break in case of emergency shot creation. They don't have that. Alec Burks isn't playing. And so did the Knicks. Like, the Knicks won that Sixers series and they had some really high offensive moments, but is their offense like even worse off in this series, even though they're going against an inferior defense than just because Philly has Embiid is able to throw at you? because you're dealing with guys playing so many minutes, and now it's just Brunson. Like, you don't even have another lever to pull unless you want to break open Alec Burks or overstretch Deuce, who can do a little bit of that.
Yeah. Also, does Josh Hart continue to shoot like Steph Curry, or does he start shooting like Josh Hart again? That would be. I mean,
That would be
like
that's like the flip side of, does Tyrese Halliburton continue to shoot like we think Josh Hart does,
right,
or does he
right,
regress to his
right.
mean?
Yeah, and like credit to Josh Hart because I know early in that series he said like I knew this was the strategy coming in, and I spent the entire week leading up to that series, just jacking up threes in practice. Like I knew they were going to target me, and he was able to knock him down. But I think to your point, they are absolutely going to continue leaving him open. Like if they're going to double Jalen Brunson, it makes sense to double with Josh Hart's man. So do they continue to do that? Does he continue to make them pay?
Here's my thing is then does it though? Because you need bodies on Josh Hart once that shot goes up to prevent just like the offensive rebound, like, because he's just everywhere, defensively, offensively, like a magnet to the ball. And so do you kind of have like, well, should we maybe just chance helping off of just literally anybody else because we need to keep him from getting these like second chance opportunities, or ending our own possession just because he's so good at getting the defensive boards as well. It's just, I'm most fascinated by Nuggets Timberwolves in the second round, but like because of just, you've said it, the contrast in styles here, Knicks versus Pacers is really just piquing. I mean, and obviously my Knicks ties for sure, but it's piquing my attention 6 ways towards Sunday. I can't wait for that series to start. Do you have a prediction for this one?
This might be disrespectful to the Pacers, but I just feel like the Knicks roll here. I could see it. I think it might be like Knicks in 5.
You did mention this at the top. They have this maddening tendency to play worse against worse opponents. And like the Knicks are a better team than that version of the Bucks. So I'm sort of kind of wondering, are they going to rise to the occasion here because the Knicks are a better team? And it feels like, it almost feels like had Giannis been available that series, that the Pacers might have been on their A game more often. They might have lost, but they might have just been on their A game more often. I'm going to go Knicks in 6 here. I ultimately just don't think, you mentioned this already too, I don't think that there are as many buttons for Rick Carlisle to push here in this series. And I think if they do beat the Knicks, we look back on it as the offense for the Knicks just fell flat because they ran out of guys who could not even just generate their own shots, but make shots aside from Brunson. And then also we saw Pascal Siakam go full what he was the first 2 games in that Bucks series, or Tyrese Halliburton's shooting starts to look like Tyrese Halliburton again.
Yeah, and like Mitchell Robinson, I know came back in that Sixers series, still seems pretty banged up. So if he leaves again,
we're absolutely having a game, especially if the Knicks make it to the conference finals, where Tibbs doesn't sub anybody out. And maybe it's like by borderline necessity because Bogdanovich is already out and Mitchell Robinson needs to miss another game. And then it's, you know what, I'm just not going to play deuce tonight. So we're just going to roll with these 5 the entire time.
And they might still win. That's what's sick. I honestly, like, I have nothing but respect for what the Knicks have built over the last couple of years. And they found the right brand of sickos for Tom Thibodeau. Like, it's an impressive alignment that we don't often see between front office, coaching staff, and players. But they found the right type of guys to buy into the identity that Tibbs has. And like I think this Knicks team, especially after the OG trade, when they were just bum slaying for like, it was like a month or so before Randall and OG got hurt, and then they kind of like fell under the radar. But like, I think they went under the radar, which is a weird thing to say about the New York Knicks. It's like they never go under the radar, but like I don't think people really appreciated how good this Knicks team is. I think they are for real. I think they could be even scarier next year if they do the Paul George thing that we talked about earlier, or make some sort of big acquisition with Randall and Bogdanovich. But I mean, I don't think people should discount them. And even if they win this series and move on to presumably play Boston in the conference finals, like I don't think Boston is just going to blow the doors off of the Knicks. I think it's going to be a hard fought series.
I don't even know. I'd have to dig deeper as to who I would pick for that one, but I think there would be some people who are prepared to be like, well, this is like the Knicks' Atlanta Hawks run in 2021. Like they
Yeah.
just caught the right matchups, the hobbled Sixers, a Pacers team that just is fine. And it's like, no, like this team, there's definitely something more to this. There's definitely stuff they need to add,
Yeah.
but this is not like an aberration when you're looking at what they're able to do. So I'm going to go Knicks in 6, but I really there's just so much variance to how the Pacers play. I don't feel great about it.
Yeah. I the only thing I'd be like fairly surprised by is a Pacers in 5 or Pacers in 4. Like I could there are definitely worlds in which the Knicks just like totally run out of gas and the Pacers win the series, but I think it would be a longer series. Like I think the Knicks are going in as the better team. They are a somewhat heavy favorite on the odds market. So I could see, a Knicks sweep. I could see Knicks in 5. I could see a long series either way, but Pacers winning in a short series would be a surprise to me because I do think the Knicks just have a clear advantage in terms of talent, and I just keep coming back to the physicality, man. Like the rebounding, it sounds so stupid to harp on, but the Sixers would have won that series if not for the rebounding. Like
Well,
I mean they
oh no, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't
well,
mean to.
it was game one. Like they got out rebounded by 20, and it's like every fourth quarter, it felt like game 4 especially was they just got destroyed at the end. Like and even in game 6, I think there were a couple key ones late where the Knicks just continued to generate these possessions out of thin air that they should not be getting, and it allows them to build these leads. And honestly, I could also see just the wild swings of that Knicks Sixers series, the game 2 ending, the game 5 ending, them getting up so big in game 6 and then giving up that whole lead by halftime and going down 10 points in the third quarter, coming back from that, going up 8 late, giving that whole lead back up. Like I think that just tested them in a way that the Pacers did not get tested in the first round, and it's going to prepare them for what's coming more than the Pacers might be.
And I would say it's not stupid to harp on the offensive rebounding when they boarded. It was like basically 36% of their own misses for the series. And there were
Yeah.
like stretches where at the end of it was game 6, they rebounded 56.2% of their own misses in the first quarter of game 6. The Sixers actually rebounded 46% of their own misses, I think, in that quarter. 56.2% for a 12-minute stretch is fucking wild.
I'm honestly just proud of the Sixers for not totally letting go of the rope, because when they were down 33-11, and I was like, that game started at 9 o'clock, so I was telling my wife like, yeah, actually maybe I will go to bed with you at halftime, like maybe, and then they had already taken back the lead by halftime, and I went upstairs.
That series was so epic. It was, I think, the most entertaining first round series for me since, you remember that, what year was that? The Clippers Spurs, where it came down to was it Chris Paul hit like the game winner? It was in game 7, like basically hit the buzzer at that. I think this was the most entertaining first round series I've seen since then. Was that 2014?
I think so.
Around there,
yeah. It was, I should be more upset about it, and I'm surprised that Sixers. I guess Sixers fans have just already moved on to like arguing about Jimmy Butler versus Paul George versus Brandon Ingram versus 2 stars, 3 stars, whatever. So like no one's really fixated on it. If anything, I think it just kind of solidified that Tyrese Maxey is that dude, and that's
he is that dude.
And that's all that matters from the season, honestly, because that was their biggest, the non-Harden question coming in was, is Tyrese Maxey the clear number 2? Yes, question answered. Now we can move on. But yeah, like I mean, the entire series being decided by a margin of 1 point. And I loved the Nick Nurse's comment before Game 6 was just so fitting, where he was just like, nothing matters.
Did you see the meme I posted about that? It was from oh man, why am I blanking on what's that show from Netflix with Jason Bateman? It's based in Missouri. Oh, Ozark. And the meme is, I don't know fuck about shit or shit about fuck. And that's basically what Nick Nurse said. And I was like, I respect it. This is a level of nihilism that is so relatable that I love it.